Hello, my name is Lisa Silhavy, and my toolkit topic was homelessness in children and families. I chose this topic because there was a period in time in my life when I could have been homeless myself. I had small children and was divorced and had a really dark period, and if it had not been for the help of my family, I would have been homeless. I lost my house and my cars, and through a lot of support, I've been able to establish all of that again. But during that time, if I didn't have family intervention, I would not have had a home or a place for my children to stay. According to the American Institute for Research, in 2019, approximately 2.5 million children experience homelessness each year. This is 1 out of every 30 children. So if you think about a classroom of 30 kids, at least one of those children is going to not have a home to live in. There are many definitions used to define who is homeless, but it depends on who is making the definitions. HUD, for example, says that not having a roof over your head, living in a homeless shelter, transitional living, or living on the streets is considered homelessness. For my project, though, the most inclusive definition that I found that examined homelessness in the terms of children was the definition that comes from the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act. The definition is widely used throughout school systems in the United States, and that is to help them determine how many children they have that are living in homeless situations. The definition through the McKinney-Vento Act says that children and youth that lack a fixed nighttime residence are considered homeless. This includes children who reside in hotels, at campgrounds, and trailer parks that are not designed for just single trailer living, but parks that have RV parks, and shelters, and children who are doubling up. A lot of families, especially with in the rural community, doubling up is a common thing that homeless families do. They live with other families that are their friends, or they live with their family. And so when you're all living together, multiple people, then it's considered doubling up. One way that you can examine homelessness is through the lens of that homelessness isn't a personal problem; it's a moral problem, or that homelessness equals laziness, and that many people who are homeless because they want to be homeless, that they're choosing to be homeless. So what is important in my toolkit was to reframe the way that people view homeless individuals, and working to reframe homelessness will help, because other people can see that homeless people can come from all walks of life. You can have a PhD and be homeless if you have a mental illness. You can be a family of a mom who's working but struggling to be able to pay rent in a high income area. There can be multiple reasons that someone develops homelessness. Research shows that 7 out of 10 people are one paycheck away from becoming homeless, because rents are so high in some cities that people are having to pay out over the standard 30% of your income is supposed to go toward housing. Many people are paying 50% or more of their income monthly into housing. And when you think about over 50% going for your house, you've got food, everything else, and if you miss a paycheck one time, you're not going to have a place to live. Also, understanding that families that are made up of single mothers are really at risk. And so a mother who has more than one child, it makes up the highest population of families that are in homelessness, that are experiencing homelessness. My goals for establishing the campaign to end homelessness were, 1, to decrease homelessness in families by at least 10% in the first 6 months. There would also be a decrease in families being separated by CPS, or Children's Services in my area, for homelessness by 10% in 6 months. And then there would also be a 20% increase in available funding for families that require rental assistance or for housing first opportunities, and we'll discuss housing first later. To begin a grassroots campaign, it is crucial that you have support from agencies in the community in which you live. You can't get support for the project that you're working on if you don't encourage people from your community that have resources in your community and also help with community development without engaging those people. So the organizations in my area that I chose were the Portsmouth Police Department, the County Sheriff's Office, the Domestic Violence Shelter, the City Health Department, Children's Services, the Adams Board, which is the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board, and the Homeless Shelter. Starting with the domestic violence shelter is going to be crucial because 77.6% of families that are homeless are headed by women who have reported that they have left a intimate partner domestic violence situation. Working with the domestic violence shelter situation or domestic violence shelter is very important on two fronts. Many people who utilize the shelter are doing so because they're experiencing homelessness because they've had to leave a situation where there was a control, and there's also a lot of financial control during that. And then many people who are homeless have experienced trauma and they've been a victim of domestic violence. So by working together and having a partnership with the domestic violence shelter and in this committee of people that are going to help with homelessness is going to be really important because they can help facilitate help both ways through developing homeless services and through getting the people that are homeless help for their trauma. Children's Services is often a precursor to becoming homeless. So sometimes Children's Services is called in and they could find things by doing risk assessments and educating them on risks for homelessness. And maybe they can work together to keep families together and in a home. They can also evaluate for substandard housing so that they can work together to prevent someone from becoming homeless. The Scioto County Homeless Shelter here in Portsmouth is in desperate need of assistance. They have a shelter that, according to Maureen Cadogan, who runs the shelter, she says they have a 3-month waiting list. She said it's horrible when people call in and she has to tell them, I know you're homeless today, but you've got to wait 3 months until there's a shelter. And then they can only stay 30 days. After that 30 days, they have to wait another 6 months before they're allowed to come back to the shelter again. So that means doubling up, couch surfing, or a lot of times living under a bridge. Last year was the first time that I actually experienced someone that was homeless like firsthand during my practicum. I had to take a client home under the bridge in our area, and that was where she lived. And I just thought I'm dropping her off as a case manager to her bridge, and I just couldn't fathom how that had to be for her. The Scioto County Homeless Shelter is, like I said, they're in a lot of need. The length of stay is short, and so trying to help them get funding, and also potentially through developing a different initiative to end homelessness would take some of the burden off the homeless shelter. The police department and sheriff's office is crucial in this because they are many times the first people who come in contact with homeless people and families that are living in cars that they may respond to. And so working with them, they can try to work to get people help. The Adams Board that I mentioned earlier, they have a lot of the power here in the community to provide funding for programs, to help seek grants, help with grant writing, and can help work together to get services for the clients that need help and for the agencies that can provide the help. The Portsmouth Health Department, they are monumental during the point in time count, and they also interact frequently with homeless individuals. All of this planning is nothing, though, without an actual plan to end homelessness. So having a committee is great, having all of these things, but we really need a plan. And a plan that has worked for many companies or cities is a Housing First initiative. And Housing First means that you provide rapid rehousing when someone is homeless, or you provide them long-term rental assistance or short-term rental assistance, so that they can keep their house or they can get into a new house. They also do not have to get a job, get clean, do any of those factors without having a house first. It's really hard. You wouldn't think, how is someone going to get cleaned up, go to a job, to work during the day without being able to take a shower first? So having them in a house can help with that. The Housing First has been very effective in decreasing emergency services that occur from being homeless by $31,000 over the course of 2 years in one community. And Housing First could save up to $23,000 a year for one person that would be utilizing a homeless shelter versus living in their own home. So in order to obtain the support, I think doing a video with families that are discussing their homelessness and the hope for the future, and coming up with a hashtag that says Homes Equals Hope, and providing homes for people provides them hope. Having children discuss how living in a homeless situation has affected them, providing some type of emotional tie to the fact that people are homeless, and getting people to buy into and realize that we need to help people. Helping people is the only way for us to survive as a community and survive as social workers. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.